Welcome to Titan HST's Business Continuity Today, hosted by Todd DeVoe, where planning meets reality.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Titan HST's Business Continuity Today. And this is Todd DeVoe, your host. And so, disasters, the private sector, and private-public partnerships. That's what we're going to be discussing today. And so planning for and managing disasters has been considered the role of government for years, right? I mean, this is sort of why we have FEMA and CalOE, or in California, at least CalOES, or your Office of Emergency Management, right? But however, for many years now, during catastrophic disasters, civil unrest, cyber attacks, critical infrastructure issues, we've been looking at the private sector as well to help out during these events. And this is what we're going to be discussing today. So, as both potential victims of the disaster and providers of urgent resources, local businesses have important roles in emergency management, just as government agencies do. So if we look at, say, Katrina, for instance, where Walmart stepped up for doing logistical work and supplies, you have UPS and you have FedEx doing the same thing during disasters and moving people and resources around. But it's not just the big businesses. Small and medium-sized businesses are particularly vulnerable to disasters, but yet they are the ones that we lean on locally here during events. Matter of fact, during the fires here in Orange County, my friend and I went out to go have lunch, and one of the local businesses was closed to regular business, but they were in there making box lunches for all the people on the front lines. And this is what we're talking about, how these small and mom and pop businesses and the medium-sized businesses, they excuse me, even though they're impacted by the disaster, right, they support the responders. So when we look at businesses during COVID, about 60% of the businesses that have closed during this coronavirus pandemic will never reopen again. And restaurants, like the one that was helping out that, the firefighters, right, and the responders to the fire, those small restaurants have suffered the most. And this is coming from a Yelp study. And Reviews has been keeping tags on closures since March, and basically as of August 31st, nearly 163,700 businesses have closed the doors, and this is a 23% increase from July. And of those, 98,000 said they'll shut their doors forever. Now, that being said, maybe some of those businesses were going to close anyway, and they just use this as an opportunity to close, but we're still losing lots of businesses due to the COVID crisis. And that being said, what can we do to help them stay open? Well, a couple of things. One is we need to be working with our local businesses and our chamber of commerces and trade associations to help them create business continuity or disruption plans, right? And because not only are those businesses that are closing down are impacting our ability to get goods and services necessarily, right? It's also an economic harbinger because now all those people that are working for them are no longer employed, right? Which causes some additional issues that we're looking at right now when we're talking about the stimulus packages going through to help those that aren't able to work, right? So it's this cascading effect when it happens when businesses like this close. I did my study when I was doing my undergrad on the Whittier Narrows earthquake and how that impacted the local businesses. And the ones that closed are service industry businesses, right? And if they didn't get back up and running within 3 days of closing, they never opened again. And we're seeing the same trend happening here with small businesses during this COVID crisis. If they don't get back up and running, they're never opening again. You're seeing hair salons and barbershops closing forever. You're seeing small restaurants closing forever. You're seeing other independent businesses that just can't withstand, I should say, the economic burden of being closed during this time. So keeping an eye on history. we'll take a look at the pandemic flu of 1918. It was listed as the 15th most costly disaster. 1918 flu is the 15th disaster with the greatest economic impact, right? I think that this one here, right, the COVID crisis, is going to, I don't know, I can't tell you right now. I haven't looked at the data, but I'm going to guess that it's going to surpass the 1918 flu, right? And so now the number of businesses that have closed for bankruptcy, that I was just talking about, aren't just the small mom and pops. You have larger companies such as 24 Hour Fitness, Neiman Marcus, JCPenney, J. Crew, Gold's Gym, Hertz, Pier 1 Imports are just a few of the ones that we're looking at that have asked for bankruptcy protection. Now, obviously, we know that just because you're doing bankruptcy protection does not mean that you're going to close forever. But a lot of them are, right? You're looking. Have you walked through a mall lately? These malls look like they're desert islands, right? So you have to take a look at this stuff in the context of what are businesses doing to keep themselves opening, right? So why is it important? Why do we need to work with the private sector? Private sector is contributing to disaster recovery, and they're doing it in various different ways. They're financing in some cases. So some small banks, you have the micro banks that are coming up, right, to help out like other small businesses or people that just need small loans just to get through, right? They're helping through facilitating technology uses. They're facilitating some of the influxes in the communities that happen during disasters, and they supplement federal distribution process, right? So the federal government does not have a way to get money necessarily to individuals, but they could do that through small businesses or through business in general. So this is why it's important to have a strong network, right? This is why it's important to have strong connections to your local business. When I was working in local government, I worked closely with our Chamber of Commerce because I knew that at the end of the day, that was really the heart of our city, right? The small business owner is the heart of your city, right? And so to get them up and running not only helps them out, but it helps you out as a government agency, right? And if you are on the business side of things, working directly with your local government to provide services not only helps out you your bottom line necessarily, but it also helps out with the idea of recovery. It's especially nowadays when we take a look at disasters, and COVID's a good example of it, where it doesn't stop at the boundary, right, of your city. It doesn't stop at the boundary of your service area, right? It spreads across, and so having those networks set up is very important. When you start taking a look at this, according to FEMA, businesses play a key role. And I'm going to quote this out. Quote, according to FEMA, businesses play a key role in building resilient communities as a business is considered what they need to do to survive a disaster or an emergency. As outlined in their business continuity plans, it is equally important that they also consider what customers will need in order to survive. The ongoing involvement of businesses in preparedness activities paves the way to economic and social resilience within their communities. And this is from 2011. Right from FEMA. So this is not a new concept, right? I'm not trying to, break boundaries here, and probably not telling most of you people out there exactly, anything new. But we have to really take a look at things in the resilient and robustness model, right? And I've been kind of preaching this here for a few 3 months now, right? The idea of robustness. But as part of the resilient efforts, companies are extending their reach to emergency preparedness, response, and recovery activities, including for their employees, family members, and other people involved with their company. So, Office Depot is using this foundation to educate small businesses about emergency preparedness. Now, how cool is that? Right? Giving back to your customers, right? Office Depot sees this as an issue and as an opportunity to teach their customers about emergency preparedness and business continuity. Shell Oil Company has provided support for disaster victims in need to fuel their businesses, right? And Walmart uses its website to promote preparedness among its employees and post tips for specific areas for shelter and disaster information. And we take a look at the social responsibility of businesses today, right? Putting an emergency preparedness section into your business is important. Matter of fact, Walmart has their own emergency management section within their company, which I think is awesome. Today, if you take a look at our most valuable asset in our businesses, it's our employees. And we need to work with them so they're prepared, because if they're prepared at home, right, they're going to be able to do their job at work, right? If they're not worried about how their family is doing, they're going to worry about it, right? But if they know that they're prepared and ready to go, they're going to be able to stay on the line and do much more good during a disaster. So, in conclusion here, there are areas that we need to really shore up when it comes to the ideas of emergency management at your local businesses, right? And we need to provide a future of disaster recovery operations. We need to provide the ability for business to be robust and resilient. So pursuing these areas will be challenging by difficulties, and for sure, right? We're all struggling today with what is going on with COVID. Right. And we have to talk about this because that's the elephant in the room. Right. And so we see businesses closing, and we have to look at how can our community come together to support those small businesses. Right. And how do those small businesses support the community and to make us a more robust and a more resilient community? Well, that's all for today. So thank you for being with us, and visit Titan HST for your communication needs. And remember to follow us on your favorite podcast player, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and join us next week. And until then, stay safe and stay hydrated.